The morning opens like a held breath over the Pacific. The water is silvered and still, while Amelia Rhodes rehearses smiles in the mirror that never quite reach her eyes. Margaret Rhodes sweeps in with a florist's command, correcting ribbons and servants, pressing tradition like a seal onto hot wax. Elena Cruz slips through the bustle with a small box wrapped in brown paper and twine, voice soft as sea mist when she says Amelia's name. Daniel Hale calls from the hallway, teasing about breakfast, but his tone has a question tucked inside. Cameras click, champagne fizzes, and the room hums with congratulation. Yet, the humble box sits like a quiet bell, waiting to be struck. Amelia, tight with performance, thanks Elena without looking, touches the paper as if it might smudge her day, then sets it aside near the wastebasket. Laughter rises, and the moment passes. Outside, the sun lifts. Inside, something in Amelia lowers, closing a door she doesn't know she'll have to open with both hands before the night is over. The aisle curves along the cliff like a ribbon drawn by the sea, and Amelia Rhodes walks it to polite applause that sounds thinner than the wind. Daniel Hale waits under an arch of roses, and for a moment he looks only at her. Not the photographers or the crowd, and the world steadies. Margaret Rhodes composes the audience with a queen's gaze, correcting posture by existing. Elena Cruz stands at the edge of the staff line, not a guest, not quite invisible, following the procession with quiet devotion. Vows unfold with perfect cadence, the officiant's words polished by tradition until they gleam. When Daniel speaks, his voice catches on the idea of promise, and it threads Amelia back to childhood, to a summer when she and Elena built castles with wet sand and let the tide erase them. The ring slides on, applause swells, and beneath the applause a tiny sound remains. The sound of a small box shifting in a basket miles away in the house above the water. Music swings over glass and silver as servers weave through laughter. Daniel Hale steers Amelia Rhodes to a quiet corner near the hydrangeas, and the soft smile he shows is a question about the morning. Amelia answers with a deflection that feels expertly crafted and suddenly exhausting. Margaret Rhodes thanks donors, shapes anecdotes, traces the arc of legacy across plates of buttered halibut. Elena Cruz moves like tidewater between tables, placing plates with a care that suggests more than service. A photographer asks for a toast, and Amelia lifts her flute, a glittering salute to a perfect day. The word perfect repeating until it loses milk and becomes chalk. Daniel's eyes return to the house above, to a corridor and a basket, though he hasn't named why. When the band swells, Elena's gaze meets Amelia's across the lawn. It's brief, a moth's wing in sunlight, but the current of it knocks loose something Amelia cannot yet admit. Dusk inks the hallways in blue and amber as staff reset spaces for the evening. Daniel Hale returns to the suite for a forgotten cufflink, steps careful on old wood. He pauses in the doorway, because the air in the room remembers something he doesn't. The wastebasket glints in the lamplight like a small well, and the brown paper box sits within, unremarkable as a stone. He reaches in, curiosity disguised as tidiness, thumb catching the twine. The paper rasp is intimate, a quiet voice through cloth. Margaret Rhodes calls from downstairs, her syllables carrying a lifetime of directives, and Daniel considers leaving the thing untouched. He doesn't. He slips the box into his pocket and closes the door. The corridor exhales. Somewhere outside, the sea changes color by the second, and the first star appears over the hedge as if to witness a secret that has finally grown impatient. Night settles like a promise honored. Music from the reception becomes a distant tide, while Daniel Hale sits on the edge of the bed with the small box in his hands. He works the twine free, careful not to tear what was wrapped with care. Amelia Rhodes is still outside under lights and camera flashes, a constellation made of attention. The paper opens, and inside lies an ivory envelope addressed in a hand Daniel doesn't recognize. The ink steady, the name Amelia, written as if spoken softly. He slides out a letter and a check that stops the room. The number blooms like a flare on open water, and beneath it, a note of gratitude signed by Samuel Cruz. The weight of it is not the money, but the story that carried it here through time and service and silence. Daniel exhales, then rises to find Amelia, knowing their perfect day has just become real. The sea burns gold as twilight folds itself into evening, and the guests drift from laughter to reflection, drunk on the beauty they helped build. Amelia Rhodes stands beside Daniel Hale on the terrace, the ocean stretching like a promise that can't be kept. Margaret Rhodes joins them, her voice crisp with pride, ensuring that the photographers capture the legacy she's sculpted. Yet beneath her smile, Amelia feels the first shiver of unease, like a silk thread tightening at her throat. Daniel's hand rests at her back, gentle, grounding, but his silence carries the echo of questions he hasn't asked. Below them, Elena Cruz oversees cleanup, her figure small yet steady among the staff. The scent of salt and roses weaves through the air, and the horizon glows like an ember refusing to die. The illusion still holds, but only barely. Perfection now flickers at its edges, waiting for truth to break through. Candles flicker under glass domes, throwing slow constellations across linen. Daniel Hale makes polite conversation, but his focus drifts to Amelia Rhodes, whose laughter sounds like glass being tested for cracks. Margaret Rhodes orchestrates introductions, weaving donors and dignitaries into a tapestry of influence. When Elena Cruz passes with a tray, Amelia looks away, a reflex she hates herself for the instant it happens. The air grows heavy with music and meaning. A toast rises for the couples, everlasting happiness, yet Amelia tastes only distance. In that gilded blur of applause, she notices Daniel's thumb tracing the seam of his pocket, the pocket holding a secret she doesn't know exists yet, and something cold stirs behind her ribs, a premonition shaped like her own name. The laughter thins as guests migrate to the dance floor. Daniel Hale slips from the table under pretext of a call. The hallway behind the pavilion hums with generators and distant waves. He takes out the small brown paper box, now empty, but for the ivory envelope. The handwriting still vibrates with intent. He rereads the name Amelia and the signature, Samuel Cruz, the words like two ends of a bridge meeting in air. His heart tightens, knowing this truth will not stay contained. In the ballroom, Amelia's voice rises in practiced delight, but her glance flicks often toward the door Daniel disappeared through. Elena Cruz steps into the corridor moments later, collecting linens. Their eyes meet for a breath. No words exist, only the weight of what both know must soon surface. Strings soar into rhythm as lights twine around the poles, silver against dark velvet sky. Amelia Rhodes dances with Daniel Hale, her smile precise, her body fluent in performance. He leans close, whispering something that steals the air from her throat. Her eyes search his, finding there the shadow of a truth he hasn't yet spoken. Around them, laughter, sequins, and champagne blur into one long exposure of perfection collapsing. Margaret Rhodes watches from her table, satisfaction folding into puzzlement as she reads something fragile between her daughter's movements. Elena Cruz, near the catering line, folds napkins in rhythm with the music, face unreadable. The night feels balanced on a needlepoint, beauty swaying toward its breaking note. The crowd dwindles to whispers and empty glasses. Daniel Hale steps outside for air, wind teasing his hair. Amelia Rhodes follows, her gown dragging across the tiles, the scent of salt and roses thick in her wake. When she asks what's wrong, Daniel's answer trembles somewhere between love and accusation. He touches her hand, places the ivory envelope in it, and says quietly, "This was in the basket." The words slice the night open. Amelia stares at her name written in a hand she hasn't seen in years. The roar of the sea fills the silence between them. Somewhere below, Elena Cruz walks home along the cliff road, unaware that the past she wrapped in paper has finally been unwrapped beneath the same stars. Amelia Rhodes stands frozen, the sound of waves fracturing against the cliffs below. Daniel Hale's words hover between them, weightless and enormous. The ivory envelope feels heavier than her bouquet ever did. Her fingers tremble as she opens it, the paper breathing out a ghost of lavender and dust. The letter unfolds. Samuel Cruz's voice, gentle and deliberate, speaking from the grave about gratitude, about kindness shown long ago to his daughter Elena. Amelia reads, unblinking, as realization claws through her chest. She had forgotten that summer, how she once lent a child's compassion that time later stole. Now that small act has returned wrapped in shame and grace. Daniel watches her silently, seeing pride fracture into something painfully human. The ocean roars louder, as if the earth itself demands she remember who she was before she learned how to pretend. Back inside, the suite feels haunted by the choices of the morning. Amelia Rhodes sits on the bed where Daniel Hale had opened the box hours earlier. The empty wrapping lies on the vanity, its brown paper creased like memory. Margaret Rhodes appears in the doorway, voice wrapped in silk and control, asking, "What's wrong?" Amelia can't answer, not yet. She clutches the letter and says only, "It's from Elena's father." The name freezes Margaret mid-breath. The matriarch's eyes flick toward the discarded paper, understanding dawning like a shadow. For the first time, her voice softens, not in affection, but in fear. "You threw it away?" she asks. Amelia nods, her throat tight. Silence blooms between them, thick, generational, and filled with every lesson ever taught about appearances over truth. The horizon begins to blush when Amelia Rhodes steps into the cold morning. Her gown whispers against gravel as she descends the garden path alone. Daniel Hale trails behind, quiet but resolute. The house, now hushed, looks unfamiliar. An opulent shell holding too many echoes. In her hand, Amelia carries the letter, its words etched in her pulse. "I have to find her," she murmurs, and Daniel only nods. His love, no longer adorned by ceremony, feels like truth made visible. The air smells of sea, salt, and soil, the remnants of roses wilted but still fragrant. For the first time in years, Amelia feels small, human, and heartbreakingly awake. The gift she had thrown away now burns like a compass in her hands. By morning, Amelia's car winds down the coastal road, the engine humming against the restless surf. Daniel drives, his jaw tight, while Amelia stares out the window, watching the cliffs fall away like pages being turned. The letter rests in her lap, and she rereads a line that feels carved into her heart. "The true gift is not the money, but the chance to see who you've become." She whispers the words aloud, as if testing their taste. Daniel reaches for her hand, their silence fuller than speech. As sunlight breaks over the water, Amelia finally allows herself to cry. Not the elegant kind, but the kind that rinses pride clean. The horizon brightens ahead, a road that looks both endless and necessary. The small cottage stands at the edge of a fishing town, wrapped in lavender and salt air. Amelia Rhodes hesitates before knocking, her heart beating louder than the gulls above. When the door opens, Elena Cruz looks both startled and unsurprised. Time folds between them like a page reread. Amelia tries to speak, but the words fracture. An apology, a confession, a plea. Instead, she holds out the letter. Elena reads her father's handwriting, eyes softening, and for a long moment, neither woman moves. Daniel watches from the car, understanding that this isn't his moment to witness, only to wait. The sound of waves returns, steady and forgiving. What began as a discarded gift has become the beginning of something worth keeping. Amelia Rhodes sits stiffly in a worn armchair, the letter trembling in her hands. Elena Cruz pours tea, the aroma filling the small room, and her gaze is calm but piercing. The quiet is a challenge. The weight of discarded trust presses down. Amelia swallows, words stuck in her throat, but finally whispers, I didn't understand. I wasn't thinking. Elena's lips curve faintly. Not pity. Not anger, but the kind of patience earned over decades. Every shadow in the cottage seems to hold a memory of her father, Samuel Cruz, and Amelia feels the magnitude of her oversight. The sun spreads across the wooden floor, illuminating the cracks in both the furniture and herself. This moment, small and still, begins to strip away the armor she's carried her whole life. Amelia slides the letter across the table, trembling. Elena picks it up carefully, reading aloud passages from her father's words. Gratitude, morality, and legacy echo in the room, each sentence slicing through Amelia's sense of entitlement. Her eyes fill with tears, not just for the lost gift, but for the blindness she has carried all these years. Daniel Hale stands at the doorframe, silent yet supportive, his presence a tether to reality. Amelia realizes that the wealth she flaunted cannot buy understanding, and that humility is heavier than any diamond or gold. In this small kitchen, among chipped plates and the scent of steeped tea, a quiet moral universe unfolds, one Amelia has ignored until now. Amelia steps into the garden, letting the breeze hit her face, as if trying to blow away the weight of pride. Elena follows slowly, speaking softly of the summers they shared, of small kindnesses Amelia had once offered and forgotten. Each story is a mirror, reflecting not the woman she wants to be, but the woman she has been. Daniel remains slightly back, watching, allowing Amelia to confront her reflection without interference. Petals fall from the climbing roses overhead, landing like punctuation marks on this conversation between past and present. The ocean hums in the distance, relentless and patient, like time itself. Amelia begins to weep openly, the first honest tears she has shed in years, her perfection crumbling into authenticity. Sitting side by side on the wooden porch, Amelia finally speaks aloud her apology in full, voice shaky but resolute. Elena listens, expression unreadable at first, then softening as she recognizes sincerity. The check, still inside the envelope, rests on the table between them, a tangible reminder of the gift that began as humility and gratitude, not wealth. Daniel Hale leans against the porch railing, observing the scene, heart quietly relieved. The wind carries the scent of salt and herbs, the sunlight stretching long and forgiving. For Amelia, the mirror has cracked, but through it she sees the possibility of becoming someone better, a woman capable of acknowledgement, humility, and genuine gratitude. The final scene of Act 4 finds Amelia standing at the cliff's edge, the wind tugging at her dress and hair, the envelope clutched against her chest. Daniel steps beside her, silent, letting her absorb the vastness of the ocean and the weight of her choices. Elena remains near the cottage, visible only in the distance, a quiet sentinel of morality and grace. Amelia looks out at the horizon, feeling the smallness of herself and the enormity of the lesson she has learned. She inhales a deep, cleansing breath, finally acknowledging that wealth cannot substitute for integrity, humility, or human connection. This moment, suspended between past and future, sets the stage for her redemption. Ready to act, ready to make amends, ready to return the gift of honor Elena's father entrusted to her. Amelia Rhodes walks through the narrow streets of the coastal town, the letter and check folded carefully in her purse. Each shop window reflects not wealth, but the rhythm of ordinary lives, reminding her of how insulated she has been. Daniel Hale walks beside her, patient and observant, watching her adjust to a world unadorned by luxury. She passes fishermen hauling nets, children chasing gulls, and small cafes steaming with fresh bread, and each sight chisels at the pride she has carried for decades. Her steps are tentative, yet for the first time in years, Amelia feels unshielded, open to discovery and accountable for her mistakes. The town hums with life and she is no longer above it, she is part of it, learning how to return what she once discarded. Amelia pushes open the door to a small cafe where Elena often spends her mornings. The scent of freshly baked bread and coffee fills the space. Elena Cruz sits at a corner table, knitting quietly, eyes scanning the horizon through the open window. Amelia's approach is hesitant, every step measured, carrying both apology and hope. Daniel stays near the door, silently supporting. When Amelia reaches Elena's table, she offers the letter and check, voice trembling as she says, "I want to make this right." Elena lifts her eyes, recognition and quiet authority in her gaze. The cafe, simple and sunlit, becomes a stage for humility and redemption, where wealth and pride hold no sway, and only honesty matters. Elena accepts the envelope, but instead of anger, she nods solemnly, acknowledging Amelia's sincerity. The two women step outside, walking along the rocky shore, the ocean rhythmically breaking against the cliffs. Words are sparse. Actions speak louder. Amelia listens to Elena recount her father's intentions and the meaning behind the check, each story revealing lessons about integrity, gratitude, and humility. Daniel trails behind, a reassuring presence but silent, allowing Amelia to learn from the confrontation. The wind touzles hair and clothing, and for Amelia, the sea mirrors the cleansing of her pride. Every step she takes is a step toward understanding and earning forgiveness. Amelia and Elena pause on a cliff, the wind catching their hair. Amelia's voice cracks as she apologizes again, not for ceremony, but for a lifetime of assumptions. Elena listens, then speaks with quiet authority, explaining her father's philosophy. Gifts are not about wealth, but about teaching responsibility and gratitude. Amelia absorbs the words fully, tears slipping freely now, no longer about shame alone, but recognition and transformation. Daniel steps closer, offering a gentle hand to Amelia's shoulder, reinforcing the bridge being built between past mistakes and future redemption. The ocean stretches infinitely behind them, a reminder that time moves forward, and so must Amelia. The act closes with Amelia and Elena standing on a wooden dock, the sun melting into the horizon. Amelia turns the check over in her hands, now understanding it was never about money, but the chance to grow, to learn, to make amends. Elena smiles faintly, a gesture of approval and acceptance. Daniel Hale, leaning against the railing, watches the pair, the silence filled with calm resolution. The wind carries the faint tang of salt and the promise of new beginnings. Amelia finally exhales, shoulders releasing decades of pride, and steps forward into a future defined not by wealth, but by wisdom, humility, and moral courage. Morning sunlight pours across the cottage floor as Amelia Rhodes sits across from Elena Cruz at the kitchen table. The envelope with the $10 million check rests between them, like a moral pivot. Amelia's voice is soft but urgent. "I want to honor your father's gift, Elena. I want to do the right thing." Elena's eyes meet hers, calm and unwavering, and she responds not with instruction, but with a quiet challenge. The gift's value is measured not in currency but in integrity. Daniel Hale leans near the doorway, silent, letting Amelia navigate the lesson herself. Each word Amelia hears strikes like a bell in her chest, echoing the lessons she has finally internalized about humility, gratitude, and the responsibility that comes with privilege. Amelia and Elena walk slowly along the garden path, the ocean visible through the gaps in the hedges. Amelia clutches the envelope, wrestling with how to honor the gift without letting greed or ego dictate her actions. Elena speaks gently of her father's philosophy. Generosity is a mirror of character, not wealth. Daniel trails behind, his gaze steady, letting the lesson unfold naturally. Amelia feels a transformation stirring deep within, a shift from entitlement to responsibility. Every step she takes through the flowering path becomes a metaphor for walking toward moral clarity, toward a version of herself capable of true empathy and gratitude. At a weathered pier, Amelia stops and turns to Elena, envelope in hand. She asks, "What should I do with this?" Elena's answer is simple. The money can never repay what truly matters. Only the choices Amelia makes from this moment forward define the gift. Daniel stands beside Amelia, hand brushing hers in silent support. Waves lap against the pier, steady and insistent. Amelia exhales, her shoulders dropping the weight of years of pride. The $10 million check is now less about fortune and more about awakening. A chance to embody integrity, generosity, and love in every action henceforth. Standing on the cliff's edge, Amelia turns the check over in her hands, then looks out at the endless horizon. Elena encourages her to see the true meaning of generosity, giving, forgiving, and growing. Amelia finally understands that this gift is not wealth, but opportunity. A chance to transform her heart, to act with integrity, and to honor the legacy of someone she barely knew but whose lessons reach her through time. Daniel places his hand on her shoulder, grounding her in love as she makes the silent, internal vow to carry forward this wisdom. The sun glows warm, the wind tangles her hair, and for the first time Amelia feels both small and vast, humbled and powerful in her capacity for change. As the day fades into sunset, Amelia sits with Elena and Daniel on the cottage porch, envelope and check set aside. Elena smiles faintly, acknowledging that Amelia has chosen correctly. Not out of fear, not for recognition, but from understanding and heart. Daniel takes Amelia's hand, her fingers finally uncurled from tension, relaxed in trust and love. The wind carries the scent of salt and lavender, mingling with the last rays of sun. Amelia realizes that the richness of life lies not in wealth, but in humility, gratitude, and the courage to change. The horizon glows, signaling both an end and a beginning, a life reshaped by choice, compassion, and conscience. Morning light bathes the seaside garden in soft gold as Amelia Rhodes walks along the stone path, the letter and check tucked safely in her bag. She carries not just the envelope, but a transformed understanding of generosity and humility. Elena Cruz steps beside her, guiding her through the garden's quiet corners, pointing out small flowers and herbs that once belonged to her father's daily care. Daniel Hale follows closely, offering a steady hand when Amelia falters on uneven stones. Each step becomes a meditation on gratitude, showing Amelia how acts of kindness ripple outward. She no longer feels the weight of wealth. She feels the pulse of responsibility and the quiet satisfaction of making things right. Amelia, with Elena and Daniel by her side, enters the small town's community center, carrying the check. Volunteers and locals greet them with curiosity, unaware of the story behind the gift. Amelia speaks briefly, explaining her desire to honor Samuel Cruz's legacy through a foundation that will support education and local families. Elena nods, silent but proud. Daniel beams quietly, witnessing Amelia's transformation from entitlement to authentic purpose. The space hums with optimism and quiet celebration. The true wealth of human connection finally shining brighter than any inheritance. On a cliff overlooking the ocean, Amelia and Elena pause to reflect. Amelia opens her hands to show the envelope now empty. The check deposited into the foundation's account. Her father's legacy honored. Elena places a hand on Amelia's shoulder, a silent acknowledgement of trust and growth. Daniel stands beside them, wind-lifting hair and clothing, the ocean stretching endlessly behind them. Amelia feels both humbled and empowered, understanding that the value of the gift was never monetary. Waves crash below as a testament to the enduring power of integrity. And for the first time, Amelia feels her heart aligned with purpose rather than privilege. As the sun dips toward the horizon, Amelia kneels among flowers in the garden, planting a small sapling dedicated to Samuel Cruz's memory. Elena watches quietly, a gentle smile acknowledging Amelia's growth. Daniel crouches beside her, guiding her hands in the soil, a physical reminder of nurturing and renewal. The ocean reflects the warm orange light, a perfect mirror for the day's lessons. Amelia feels an unburdening of pride, replaced by gratitude and humility, understanding that true gifts are carried in actions, not envelopes. The sapling grows like a promise, one she intends to honor for a lifetime. Night settles over the cliffs as Amelia, Daniel, and Elena stand together, gazing at the stars mirrored in the dark ocean below. Amelia finally speaks, her voice calm and steady. "Thank you for showing me the meaning of true wealth." Elena nods, silent approval passing between them. Daniel takes Amelia's hand, interlacing fingers with quiet warmth. The waves crash rhythmically, the wind carries salt and the distant scent of lavender, and Amelia feels whole, unburdened by pride, ready to live a life of gratitude, humility, and genuine connection. The gift has returned, not in the form of money, but as a profound lesson that reshapes hearts and legacies alike.